Welcome to The Next Man Up, where we explore the misconceptions and paradox around modern masculinity. Join me on my quest to seek the truth through unfiltered conversations with the men behind the masks, so women can better understand men and men can better understand themselves.
Having that conversation about do's and don'ts, right? Just before sex ruins sex.
Totally.
So that conversation has to happen outside of sex. Like either after the first sexual encounter, like, because I don't think you want to, for the first sexual encounter with a woman, you want there to be mystery. You want there to be anticipation. You want there to be like that element of the unknown. And then after that, you can recalibrate and have it. I think this conversation works really well, like over text message.
Yes.
Because it's a form of sexting in a way. It's like
100%. Sterling.
How we doing?
Good. How are you?
Fantastic.
Why don't you introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about your background and what you do now?
Background's a bit spicy. So I'm an Australian. I used to be a high-class male companion. That's the polite way of saying it. And then I transitioned into being a adult film performer. And nowadays I am a YouTuber who talks about sex advice, male-female dynamics, psychology in that context, and a little bit of dating advice and masculinity advice and things like this. So I'm in an interesting position with my background.
Similar to my trajectory, except I skipped the porn part, but
right.
Escorting, fascinated by intersexual dynamics, and didn't even know the term sexology until I was doxxed, and then I had no choice basically but to make meaning of it. I'm so curious how you got into the swinger scene initially and what that aha moment was when you decided to become a male provider, an escort.
Yeah. Yes, I missed that part. I forgot to mention that part. I was in the swinging scene as a bull before I became an escort. And that's actually kind of what got me into escorting. Was when I was in the swinger scene, there was a bunch of women in there who I ended up being friends with who were escorts themselves. And they said, you should probably try this. You'd be pretty good at it. And actually, they said that, and they said they should try porn as well. So I just, over like a year and a half, I just got all this like third-party references, I guess, from women to go in that direction. But the swingers thing, it came about because a friend of mine told me about this. In Australia, there was this website, maybe it still exists, called Red Hot Pie, which was kind of like a Plenty of Fish, like a dating website, but specifically just for swinging and stuff. And I was playing around with like dating apps and stuff, and I was going out to bars and clubs and meeting women and just being a debaucherous single man. And I thought, this is interesting. I'm going to have a look at this. And then I applied sort of all of the, I guess, pickup techniques, you could say, from back in the day to like my dating profile on that website, and did ridiculously well compared to every other guy on there. Because no one else was applying like basic attraction principles and male-female psychology and dynamics like that in that context. And so what I found was I became relatively popular pretty quickly. And I got invited to parties. I started a network, became friends with a few people in that industry, or that scene rather. Yeah, and ended up being a bull, quote unquote. And then, going to parties, having some really interesting experiences, and learning, getting an insight into a world which most people never ever get to see. Yeah. And that led me down this other path of sex work.
I think that's the fascinating thing that most people don't realize is how much insight you gain in sex work, and even the difference between escorting and porn. If you look at the hierarchy, right, this less so applies to men. This is why I'm so curious about your perspective, because it's almost more acceptable to be an out porn star than it is to be a closeted escort as a woman. And you're the first male escort I've actually met. I literally, let alone like one that's attractive and not survival sex work, right? So what was that dynamic like in contrast to porn in terms of your female clientele? Because me being a woman, I'm like, I need to know I'm the object of desire.
Right.
So if I'm constructing that, it doesn't feel authentic to me. So I'm wondering, like, were your female clients really confident, or were they just very aware, or what was that psychological?
Yeah, I'd say they weren't shy about it. You know, they were aware of what they were asking for, and they could sort of suspend that disbelief for the evening. And I was always my job, as far as I considered it, was always to find something attractive about a woman, no matter what it was. Like no matter what her size, shape, whatever, her age, no matter what, I could always find something that is attractive about her, and that is kind of what I would hyper focus on. And if you ask like a lot of porn stars, it's the same thing. Like they're kind of the ability to just hyper fixate on one thing is what keeps you in that zone. So with the female clientele, my job was that, and it was also for the, let's say, the boyfriend experience part of the encounter, like the date, the dinner and a show or whatever. It was about giving them undivided attention, like making them feel loved,
full presence,
completely.
Yeah,
like not distracted by anything else. You know, it's just like she's paying you to give her that experience that she can't really get from anybody else.
Yeah.
And there was a couple of interesting clients I had. I actually had a chunk of my clients who were actually like female escorts themselves, who just wanted a night off. that was really interesting.
Doing a deep dive into you, I'm writing a book right now and it's frameworked around my lived experience and then dissecting that from a sexological framework. And just what you said just now about the full presence, I've found I was in my full feminine when I was doing sex work. And then in the real world, it became difficult because I'd go back to hypervigilance and I was closeted. But with a client, we knew what it was, and I could just be a woman and, treat them like a man. And also, to your point, I felt the same way in terms of finding something attractive about every client. And that for me, and for women in general, that's not pertaining to physical per se, but it's something interesting. And I think that teaches you a lot of attunement and empathy, and attunement especially is so imperative in sex, right?
Yeah, the empathy part is probably what I was using the most, I think.
Yeah.
Especially with women who were escorts themselves, like the ability to she wants a night off, cool. Yeah. Sit back, relax, I got this. You don't have to do a thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's all about you,
Yeah.
And then with the women who were the dinner and a date clients were women in their 30s, mid-30s, somewhere around there, who couldn't really find a man to fulfill that role for them, that they could just, let go around, because they were always in their masculine with their work, with their corporate job, running a business. Like this was the stereotype, the successful career woman, right? That was the clientele. And so it was really interesting. I had this one client, she was like a deca millionaire from China, and she couldn't date anybody because everyone just wanted her for her money. And I thought, she confided quite a lot in me, and I thought this is like an insight I never would have had ever into this person's life, or into this kind of a life, where she's got all this money, she's on paper she was married too, like back home. The marriage wasn't consummated. It was just a marriage of saving face, a marriage of status.
Yeah.
And so because she was married on paper, she couldn't date.
Yeah.
She couldn't go out and be seen with her family. If her family had seen her bringing a man home or whatever, it'd be scandalous. So that I fulfilled that role, and she just I'm the only person she could confide in about so many things. She just couldn't find someone to give her love.
Yeah.
Which was it was really interesting. You would have thought you would think that someone who has all the money anyone could ever want wouldn't really have the most basic of problems, but she definitely did. I'm curious if that's a similar experience.
So much. It's the exact same thing where, many. If we look at hypergamy, that's the whole framework of women are after men who have established status and power, and that's why, younger women meet at the intersection of like a man in his mid to late 30s to early 40s once he's accumulated that, right? So if a man doesn't have that at that age, or if his wife isn't sleeping with him, but he loves her, what do you do, right? And the things that men would confide in me were significant. There was this unmatched intimacy I found in sex work, which you don't expect. And it sounds like you know exactly what I'm talking about, because you both have equally the same, to lose, like reputationally, whatever. And you're there for one, you're creating a container of like complete radical intimacy. So that, I learned things about men that I would have had no idea existed otherwise. And a lot of that was like them wanting to claim their dark masculine, the primal side of themselves, and to really be treated with respect that they weren't getting at home.
Isn't that crazy? If and this is like a objectively successful man.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases,
yeah.
too, right?
Well, because he could afford me, of course.
Right. But at home, he's not getting respected.
Yeah.
And he's not getting the intimacy he wants.
Yeah.
Isn't it like? Did they ever kind of understand why their wife wasn't being why their wife didn't respect them anymore, didn't want to fuck them?
In my opinion, they gave too much too soon, right? It's like this happens to, I think, a lot if you go for the shiny thing really quickly, which is where a lot of the red pill the red pill praxeology, it makes sense to me, because a woman needs to earn that place in a man's life. So if you bypass that cultivation of like building something, then she becomes very entitled, right? And a lot of women too, I wholeheartedly believe women are more manipulative than men, and that's rooted again in Evo Psych, right? We had to be hyper vigilant, and we had to shit test in order to be able to trust a man. So if we do that and then he passes the test, we're like, or if he fails the test, we're like, that was too easy, So now we have we have nothing to earn. We want to have our imaginations fed. We want to feel like we still have to work towards something. That's what keeps polarity alive, right? And it's in that mystique and in that kind of space that Eros exists. So what happens if a man just comes on and gives her everything she wants too quickly? And usually that happens, ironically, with a very attractive to younger woman. It's like he will, I don't want to use the term simp necessarily, but like he thinks he's landed the thing. Like, look, status symbol, I have the hot young wife. Right. And then she's like, I've been phoning it in my whole life. Who thinks now that I've got the ring on my finger, I don't have to do anything now?
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think with a young, attractive woman like that who gets, the world handed to her on a silver platter, and then a guy comes along and tries to like give her the world and make her his wife and put a ring on it and stuff like that. I think there's a part of that woman who understands that she hasn't earned the things she's getting, and so she can't respect a man who gives her stuff.
Why do you think I'm still single at 36 years old? It is a paradoxical thing where it's like if he's all in too quickly, you're like, why? You don't even know me and I haven't earned it yet. And then it's that there's kind of this like fragile, moment of time where then very quickly all of a sudden, you miss that window because you've been too shut down, you've been too hypervigilant. So it's like, where is that sweet spot? Because it does require vulnerability and surrender to some extent on both parts, right? And I'm always like, how can we emulate what we learned in sex work and bring this to the real world, which is what you have done? And what are the big takeaways that you found pertaining to both men and women?
Well, from the perspective of what guys can do,
for
me, it's about that presence, especially in the bedroom. You're not up here in your head. That fixes a lot of like performance problems for a start.
Yeah.
But then it also creates a much more like enticing experience for her, and it makes her feel beautiful. It makes her feel sexy. The female sexual ego is tied into her ability to please you. That was one of the biggest things I noticed working as like an escort for women, was how much they need, like they would always insist that I orgasmed. Mm-hmm. Even like in my mind, I'm like, oh, cool. She doesn't need me to do this. I'll make it all about her. It was the complete opposite. I had to. It was like, why haven't you? Like, it only took me like a couple of like experiences for me to be like, oh shit, okay, cool. I need to make sure that she understands that she's attractive enough to make me finish.
Yes, because women want to be the object of desire. So we need you to mirror back to us our internal erotic self-image.
Yes.
And that's what works, right? Whereas men can easily project onto that. They don't need to be the object of desire per se. Although I'm finding that's changing a lot in society more.
It is like as a guy, and this probably ties into like the why being a bull in the swinger scene was so, I don't know, what's the right word for it? Like it was gratifying to the ego. Because especially at like a big swingers party. And this probably also ties into like the whole being a porn performer thing too. Maybe it's just me, but maybe a lot of guys in the industry have a similar psyche about this. There's something about being like putting on a performance, like being the center of attention, especially at like a swingers party, right? You're just giving it to a woman and everyone's watching, and especially if women are watching that, there's something like that is so erotic, so incredibly like arousing and like validating and gratifying. It makes you, as a guy, on my end, that was the sexiest I'd ever feel.
Yeah.
Is performing like that in front of women specifically.
Yeah.
So that was, I think there is an element to like the male sexual ego, which does want to be validated and desired, because that intimately like ties back into respect, like respect from women specifically. You know, like when a woman is just obsessed with you and adores you and basically worships your penis, there is like nothing that is sexier. Like enthusiasm is the sexiest thing a woman can be.
That's what I always say. It's not technicalities. Like, women ask, how do I give the best blowjob? Well, I can give you some skills and technicalities, right. But it really comes down to you love it. You fucking love it. Yeah. Like, and you can't fake that, right? Like, just like Rollo says, you can't negotiate desire.
Yes.
It's like I give great blowjobs because I love giving blowjobs, right?
And that's funny because people would always ask me what it's like, working in the porn industry, and it must be amazing. Like they must be fantastic at blowjobs. And the honest to God's truth is like a large chunk of the performance you see on screen is done for the camera, and it's acting to get a specific shot at a certain angle at a certain point in the script. You know what I mean? There are obviously points where it's real, genuine passion, and those are the best parts of the day, best parts of the job. But a lot of the time, I used to call it a show job, not a blow job, because the enthusiasm is like fake, because it's being done specifically to create a certain shot for the camera, And the best, like the real blow job, is like when the cameras are off and we're like just getting frisky while they're setting up the shot. Yeah, like the real enthusiasm's coming out of her then. Yeah. But then on the camera, it's like a performance, so it's a very different kind of experience. It's kind of crazy, the ability that you would, or the experience of being with these women who are supposed to be these sort of sexual professionals. Yeah. But you can get a far better sexual experience from an average woman who just is obsessed with you. Yeah. Yeah. The best sex I've had is when I couldn't tell you what positions we were in. Yeah. It's just, we're both in flow state together, and it's just this dance, right? It's a language in and of itself. And that's what I think most people don't realize. And to that point too, I love what you've said on a few clips I've seen about like reverse cowgirl. This is how I know a woman is a performative, like,
is performative in the bedroom and she doesn't actually enjoy sex.
Right.
If she says her favorite position is reverse cowgirl, that's her trying to please, people please, right? I'm like, it's like 69 for a woman. That's not a favorite position. That's optics, right? Like it's like, but men will say the same thing, and it's like, no, that's in the technicalities. Like, give me your stance on reverse cowgirl.
You got to be very careful with it as a guy because you'll break your dick.
Yeah.
I know guys who had their dick snapped.
What does that even mean? Like, what happens after one breaks it?
Like it's a breaking of the like the connective tissue in the shaft when it's like, because it's at full erection and it basically snaps.
How do you recover?
The dude I know who had it done to him, he was in hospital for like several days with a catheter down his wang, trying to drain the blood out of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't, and it has like a permanent kink in it after that fact.
Wow.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a pleasant thing. And I had a couple of close calls in my career when I had a woman who was working with a woman who was like very performative, very enthusiastic, and trying to put on a real show for the camera. And I just had to make sure my hands were on her hips at all times, because if I'd let her, like, a lot of women, I don't know about if you would agree with this, but I don't think a lot of women know where their vagina is.
I actually would agree with that. Yeah.
Like, just in my experience.
I totally agree with
that. Like, really basic example in, like, doggy style, she'll put her, like, there was so many times I would be with and this is with a porn star, a woman who's a professional at this job. She'd bend over, like, I'm on my knees on a bed, and she'd bend over in front of me, and she'd put her vagina, like, up here somewhere. And I'm like, honey, do you even know where my hips are? Like, do you actually know where your vagina is right now?
Yeah. And
I have to readjust her, and it was just, that blew me away, like that lack of, like, self-awareness.
Well, that's I think the big thing in the sex work industry, specifically porn, is there's the porn performers I know that are extremely self-aware, empowered, really genuinely love it.
Yeah.
And those that did get into it as a trauma response, right?
Right, yeah.
Like, in my opinion, sex should be bi-directional, not one directional. Like, you're really moving with each other. Like, one of my mentors has this methodology he uses called suction sex, right? So it's not like friction and jackhammering is painful. It's like you need to. It's an interwoven kind of like dance between the two of you. It's the attunement there.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
You got to move. Yeah, move. I understand this concept of moving together. There's a concept that I kind of adopted recently, which I think explains things really well to nerdy guys, is this idea of resonant frequency. So, okay, you know when you were a kid and you were jumping on a trampoline. You remember this?
Yeah.
And you're jumping with a friend, right? And someone double jumps you. You remember that experience?
Yeah.
Right? You have to hit the bounce at the right frequency. Like, if you remember from physics what a wave function is, right? A wave function is this sort of oscillation, like up and down like that. Like a typical roller coaster ride, like that shape, right? That is sort of like what your frequency is when you're bouncing on a trampoline. If you hit the right spot, you will amplify that wave function, you'll amplify that signal, right? And if you bounce at the wrong time, you'll cancel their jump out, right? You can do that too.
Yeah. Wow.
The female orgasm is exactly the same, right? Because there's a certain frequency that she needs to amplify that sensation and get that wave, which is the orgasm. But if you hit the frequency wrong, you will cancel it out.
Right.
And you'll stop her orgasm. You'll stop her from being able to achieve orgasm. And I think, yeah, you can know all the right techniques. You can know how to do things correctly, but unless you can really feel her rhythm, you'll never be able to get that amplification. You'll never be able to hit that resonant frequency. And that's what, like, being able to read her body language, being able to, like, really feel her while you're in that moment is what allows you to actually get a woman off.
Yeah.
And for guys who are maybe a bit more logical and nerdy, this concept of, like, resonant frequency, I think, helps them understand.
Oh, that's brilliant. I'm gonna totally take that.
Right.
It's not a one size fits all. It's really interesting. I think about one-sided chemistry, which does exist because that's why female sex work is so prevalent, right? It's like the number of clients I'd had, or even just hookups in my regular life, the guy would go, oh, that was incredible, that was amazing. And I'm like, here I am, I feel absolutely nothing.
Right.
And then other times it's the smallest thing. It's like without even having sex, without even making love, without, it's just, you know, a kiss or just an erotic like hand touch, and it can make you feel everything. So it's not formulaic in that sense. So I really love that concept.
Yeah. I think I do try to be a bit more formulaic for some of for the guys I teach, because a lot of guys just don't. They do need both. Like, guys don't get any sex education. Like maybe women have, like, at least when I was a kid, women had like Cosmo magazine or whatever.
Totally.
And there's like, they're getting, the advice in those magazines are probably trash anyway, but they're at least getting some tips, techniques or whatever, right?
Yeah.
The guy gets nothing. The guy gets what he sees on a porno, right? He doesn't get like the little intricacies of like, here's how you pull a woman's hair properly. You know, here's where the G-spot actually is. Here's how you feel for it. Here's how you stimulate it properly without hurting her. You're like, these little things, these technicalities, right? The nuts and bolts of it. A guy does need to learn that.
Yeah.
Because otherwise he's gonna try things incorrectly and either cause pain or cause discomfort or cause it to feel unsafe.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it has to be a bit of both. He has to know these techniques and stuff, but he also has to then understand this concept of resonant frequency, of actually of actual chemistry.
Yeah.
You know, because there's been numerous occasions I've been with a woman. She's doing everything right on paper. This goes both ways, but there's just nothing there.
Yeah.
There's no chemistry there.
Yeah.
Because she's being performative.
Yeah.
Right.
And she's not communicating.
She's not like reading me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's this, I was just at ISTA this summer, which is Tantra training. And one of the first things we did was go through RBDSMA. And there's a lot of parallels to this with sex work. So R represents relationships. So if we have sex, then what does that mean? Does that mean you want to be in a relationship? Is the goal to be in a relationship? Are you in one now? You know, B is boundaries, and that's, you know, as much physical as it is personal, emotional. D is desires, right? Which is completely subjective depending on the person and in flux. S is sexual health. So when was the last time you were tested? When was the last time you had sex? Like, how many partners have you had? If we were to accidentally get pregnant, what would you want to do? That's a big one.
Right.
M, which is my favorite, is meaning. Is this just like a physical exertion for you? Are you looking for connection? Are you looking for novelty? What are we both looking for? And then A is aftercare. And a lot of, of course, porn performers go through their own version of that in these consent talks. And I think having these conversations can actually be extremely erotic, especially like before you've slept with someone. Like, you can actually, they say planning sex, gross. I can argue that in a longer term relationship, like setting the dates, although, you know, I can plan making a Michelin star reservation and have an incredible time, or a vacation and have an incredible time. But in the beginning of a relationship or dating, you really prolong that process and like create that tension, that energetic tension, if you can kind of talk about these things. And if you're afraid to do so, that tells me a lot about, especially a man. He's like, if he's afraid to answer a question, like, I don't know, whatever, like, I'm cool. If you can't, or same with a woman, if you can't give me your no's, how am I supposed to trust your yes? Right? That's the big thing with men. It's like, if anything goes, and this is where the whole non-consensual Me Too shit comes from, because people don't have these conversations. And I think that creates so much safety and trust with men in particular, where a woman can feel free to totally relinquish control. And that's a big takeaway that I learned from sex work. I'm curious what your take is there.
I think to make it, the problem that I've always come across is that, like, having that conversation about do's and don'ts, right, just before sex ruins sex.
Totally.
So that conversation has to happen outside of sex, like either after the first sexual encounter, like, because I don't think you want to, for the first sexual encounter with a woman, you want there to be mystery. You want there to be anticipation. You want there to be like that element of the unknown. And then after that, you can recalibrate and have it. I think this conversation works really well, like over text message.
Yes.
Because it's a form of sexting in a way. It's like
100%.
Yeah, like what are your desires? What are your no's? What things do you really enjoy? What things don't you really enjoy? And you can start to play with it that way. And from a guy's perspective, it's way less awkward.
Yes.
Like, dudes actually don't talk about sex the way that, like, especially with each other, right? The way that women do. The girls' group chat is far more graphic and perverted than the guys' group chat.
Oh, yes, I know.
Right? Women will talk about this stuff in a lot more detail than men will. So when you had that example you just gave of, like, when you ask a guy, what do you want? And he says, I don't know. He doesn't really know because he's never actually had to have a conversation about the details.
Yeah.
That, and most guys don't, like, you don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Most guys aren't getting enough sex to even have a preference for sex in the first place.
Yeah.
You know, they haven't had enough experience in a variety with women to even know what the differences are.
Yeah.
To them, there's only like a couple of different, every experience they've had is probably the same. Like, it's so cookie cutter.
Yeah.
They haven't had a chance to even develop preferences. But I mean, that's kind of where I come in. Is like I look at myself as like that big brother that a guy can ask a question to without judgment, and be like, "Hey, man, like, what about this? What about I'm having problems with this? How do I get her to do this thing? How do I get her to enjoy that?" It's like, okay, well, here's how you do it, and there's no judgment there because he asks his friends. Half the time they're going to make fun of him.
Yeah.
You know, that's just the way guys work.
Yeah.
You know, so having these conversations with your woman, I think you don't want to have them just before sex or during sex at all because it ruins that sexual chemistry, it ruins that sexual tension. It's better done after the fact so you can, like, create space between, like, the feedback and then implementing it. So there's still an element of surprise.
Yeah.
There's still an element of tension going on there. Because if everything is like, and that was always the problem on set with, like, filling out these do's. We have to have the do's and don'ts forms, right? The consent checklists. But it took away from a lot of the sexual tension and of the discovery process of learning about her body, learning about what she likes. Like, it took away all of that sexual tension.
Yeah.
So that's a key component of it, is like anticipation is everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it more for general energy and how I want to be treated and checked in with, rather than like, okay, finger me at this time.
Right.
You know? So there's this other framework I use called the Erotic Blueprint, and it's essentially the 5 love languages of sex. So you have energetic, which is like push and pull. You need to cultivate tension, mystery, space. You love yearning, you love distance. And then there's sensual, which is, you need the environment to be just so, and you want a slower kind of like steady, like erotic, relaxed experience. There's sexual, which is what most men are, which is like very rooted in like straight penetration. There's kinky, which can be like psychological as much as it can be physical, right? From whips and chains and bondage to like mind fucking.
Yep.
And consensual mind fucking can be incredible. Non-consensual can ruin your life.
Right.
And then there's shapeshifter, right? So you can be any which one of those and attune to your partner. So there's this quiz that you take online. An incredible sexologist named Jaya developed it. And I like to use that as foreplay with partners. And I tell my clients to do the same thing because it's a really unintimidating way to gamify that exploration where it's playful and it's not intimidating. Because the worst thing in the world, to your point, is especially a man asking for a review. Like it's I had that not too long ago. It was awful. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is still happening, which is why I don't like to tell men that I date what I do if I'm like, that can come as discovery later because you'll just glorify or fetishize this, and I'm not working for you for free to give you a report,
Well, he's actually asking. He's not actually asking for an honest review there. He's asking for you to gratify his ego.
Oh, I learned that. Yeah. I learned that too because I would give an honest review, and then I would still. Well, by honest, I would still be lying because I was like honest as a.
You're holding back.
I'd say like an 8, and then I got like, what would make it? And I'm like, Given the amount of people that I've been with, I think an 8 is actually pretty, like I've had maybe a handful of 8s when you're not one of them, to be clear, but I'm telling you, you are. It was just insane. So I'm like, okay, men and women really don't want honesty in the bedroom. And that's that's where your book comes in, because neither of us want to be told what we're doing wrong. We need to inspire our partners. Yeah. Can you give me, what was it, coquetting? Walk me through that.
Yeah. So, for any women who follow you, stirlingforher.com is where you can go to get your hands on this free guide that I've just put together, the Pleasure Blueprint. And one of the concepts I talk about in there for women is this concept of coquetting, which is basically what strippers do. That's probably the best way of explaining it to anybody, is what a stripper does, right? The guy goes into a strip club, he sits down, he pays for a lap dance. This woman arouses him. She puts her boobs in his face, she puts her ass on it, grinds her ass into his crotch. But then the moment he tries to like touch her on the leg, she slaps his hand away, right? So back in the day, when it was back in the pickup artist days, right? Guys would use this term called push-pull, right? Which is basically flirting. That's what flirting is.
Which is what energetic is, and what I just explained.
Exactly.
To you, yeah.
But coquetting is sexualized push and pull. So she's arousing you, but denying you, or doing both simultaneously, right? And what does that do? That builds arousal, that builds sexual tension. This works for both men and women, by the way. Like, this works both ways. So like a practical example that I teach guys to do for women is to build her, like, if you understand a woman's body and you can make that woman orgasm, like, you understand her rhythm, building a woman up to that moment just before orgasm and then denying her and telling her she has to beg for it.
Yeah.
Like, it's edging her, basically.
Well, even what you said about kissing.
Yes.
Yeah, walk me through that one, because I was like, that. I don't think I've ever heard anyone nail it so practically. Yeah. It was like practical, but it was exactly it.
Yeah. So the way I teach guys to be a good kisser is nothing to do with like real, like the actual kissing technique. It's simply be the one to break away the kiss first.
Yes.
Be the one, because the most experiences for women when it comes to kissing is the guy wanting more and more and more and more. And then she has to break off and stop that physicality. If you as the man are the one to engage in a passionate kiss with her, and then when you feel her really getting into it, that's when you break it off and create that space for her to long for more of it, for her to want it more.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing for her to want if you're just constantly giving it.
Yeah.
You have to make her miss it.
Yeah.
For her to want it more.
Yeah.
That
contrast is so important. And, like you said in the book, a woman that's more trad and cooking, doing the laundry, whatever, and then is like, stick it in my ass, right? Like, that's exciting. I think it goes both ways.
It's the contrast.
Like I would say more A-type, and that's just who I am in the real world, in the work world. But sexually, I am completely submissive, right? And I yearn for someone to take me out of my head entirely.
Yep.
And, I had a connection with someone recently, / exploring that currently, where he is so doting and so sweet and very much like a good boy on the outside, and treats me like that. But behind closed doors, it's complete dominance. But we're very clear about what that is, and we speak about it. He's like, and he'll say things like, I want to break you down and build you back up, right? And
that's a very dominant kink thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like that's the big disconnect, because a lot of men do break women down, but then they never get built back up.
They don't rebuild them.
And then when that happens, they totally lose their safety, and it fucks them up for relationships. So like, I've been in many of those dynamics where I'm like, man, this is so arousing. I'm so turned on, but this guy is a terrible person. How do I emulate this? I had a total like psychopath kink for a long time, fat actually. And then so to be now aware that this can exist, and I can be in this great relationship that's emotionally fulfilling and also extremely sexually satisfying by having that contrast, which is the same for men, right? Like having a woman that respects you, that treats you like a man, that wants to take care of you, and then you take care of her in the bedroom and she feels so safe. Like it's the same dynamic, just switched.
Well, that's the thing I try to communicate, is that like rough sex is ironically something that makes a woman feel safer. Because it demonstrates your capacity for violence. It demonstrates that you are actually a man who is strong and capable of defending her. Like, and it's a weird, like, paradoxical thing for the average person to kind of get their head around. Like, if most guys who have had a decent amount of sexual experience do understand that women tend to, on average, generalization here, tend to like rough sex from a guy, a dominant. You could call it that dominant sex. You could call it passionate sex, whatever, right? But then when you turn around and explain to them, like, the reason why they like it is because, like, women are sexually attracted to killers. Like, hybristophilia. It's a purely female phenomenon. Like, this is biology. This is, like, deep-rooted evolutionary psychology stuff. She's not consciously, this is not a frontal lobe, like, conscious decision. It's just, like, women respond positively to violence. This is why fighters never have any problem getting laid.
Yeah.
Like, fighters are attracted, like professional athletes.
Yes.
Like the professional athlete is now like competitive sports is a substitute for war. So it's the same psychology going on. Like it's men competing against each other. It's basically men being violent with each other.
Yeah.
Right. And women are attracted to the violent winners. You know, and I'm not saying that you should be violent to a woman.
No, that's the contrast, right? It's like just knowing you, knowing like Rolo, knowing a lot of my new red pill friends, and male porn star friends. They are some of the kindest, like most present, compassionate men that I know, and yet I'm very aware that they have incredible relationships and sex lives, relationships too, right? Because it's that contrast. If you're an asshole and you're and you're calling her a whore out at the restaurant, it ain't gonna work. It might work for the low value woman, and it might work for a few days, but it's not gonna get either of us what you want.
I'm curious because you mentioned a second ago this idea of like a guy breaking you down and then building you back up again.
Yeah.
Can you give me an example, like a practical example of like each of those two things? Like what would a practical example be of a guy breaking a woman down and then a practical example of a guy building a woman back up again?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the awareness of that, so you feel safe to go into that. Like, and I have a more comprehensive understanding. Obviously, that's why it works. So like calling you the most degrading of names, right. Like bitch, slut, whore, spitting on you, like saying really defamatory things, tying you up, like consensual non-consent role play. And, we'll go as far as gangbangs, which we'll get into in a minute. But things like that where it completely checks you out of your brain. And and then to build you back up, it's after, that's all rooted in aftercare. So it's treating you like the woman that you know you are, and he knows you are in the real world. So that's like, cuddling, spooning, words of affirmation, words of reassurance, but them being genuine. It all has to be genuine. Like, I think a man's primal sexuality and the breaking down part is actually extremely beautiful too, because that's, it's very emotional experience for both of you, because he is able to feel free in expressing that and you're able to trust that. So that's where we go into like let's look at the cuckoldry dynamics versus the hotwifing dynamics.
Right.
So they look the same kind of on the outside, right? If you look at the swingers community. So it's both like other men fucking your girlfriend or your wife, right? The psychological makeup, the psychodynamic behind both of those are so different. So with cuckoldry, it's like the man is aroused by fear and anxiety. And that has the same biomarkers as arousal, fear and anxiety, right? You get hot, you get nervous, you're just like, you can't sit comfortable, your breathing gets heavy, and you feel lightheaded. So that's giving him a feeling that's hard to discern between arousal and fear, so it just creates arousal. So some men get off on that. A lot of men that do feel like they have a lot of power in the real world, and it's like they need to feel something. It gives them a pulse. Conversely, what I've noticed is the men that are into hotwifing or want to share their women or, facilitate like a gangbang for their girlfriend, which I used to just be vehemently against. Like, that's disgusting. Like, how could anyone ever care about me and do that and love me? And then I see that from a man that grew up in more of a powerless dynamic and comes from perhaps some trauma or some abuse where he didn't feel loved, and he had a parent that made him feel powerless. So that's him creating a scenario where he's still chosen. He's facilitating this for his woman, and at the end of the day, she's still with him. He's in control of that because he's creating that, right?
Interesting.
So it's like it's that. It can actually be potently powerful in how it is a repetition of that dynamic he had as a young boy, but with agency. And if both of you are aware of what that is, it's actually quite healing. But most people are not aware of it. So most people go into straight like hedonism, right. And that's not like I would never do it. I would never do a lot of the things I do with a partner that I trust. It just doesn't even arouse me, right? But if you're aware of what it means to them and what it means to you, it can be profound. And I think the problem in these play party and these swingers communities, people don't know why they're there. So they're just like more, faster, everything. And then they usually can't handle it, like you said.
It's like a kid in a candy store.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's like they can't handle it. Their nervous system short circuits. The woman's like, why are you so okay with this? Or the guy is like, why is she so okay with it? Right? The whole thing goes out the window. So this is what I'm all about, the psychology behind it and why, psychosexuality is important to me, to break that down. So I work with couples and individuals, but I'd say predominantly I work with men that come to me with these fantasies of theirs. And I'm like, well, is this a fantasy or a desire? Let's workshop that. Like, where's this coming from? Because fantasies can live in the mind, and that's fine. We don't need to moralize fantasies. But if it's a desire, if you have the impulse to act it out with your girlfriend, with your partner, let's figure out what that looks like and what it means to you, what it means to her, and how you go about that.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
That's super, like, I've never heard anyone break down that difference between that psychological difference between like, the cuckolding and the hotwifing. Yeah. Like that. That's super interesting to me. And that idea of like it being kind of like the hotwifing from the guy perspective, of it being like a catharsis, like a means of gaining control again. That is so similar to women who use CNC.
Yeah.
Who've been in a traumatic, abusive, non-consensual situation in their past. They will use CNC as a means of catharsis, as a means of regaining control, because they have the power in that situation.
It's a reclamation. Yeah. And, for me, I lived a double life. No one knew I did sex work. And strangely, I never felt shame around the work itself. I felt shame because I didn't feel shame about it, and I didn't feel like I could be loved and be sexual. Right. But yet I've never cheated on a partner in my life, right? And I never did sex work while I was, and by cheating I mean I wasn't even in a relationship and it was okay. I just never did them at the same time. Yeah. And so having a partner that wants me to own that horror archetype and the whore Madonna resolve, right? The integration of the two of them. That's like, I still see you as this woman, as this queen, as this Madonna, and I want you to own that horror part of you.
Yes.
That is extremely potently powerful. It's a reclamation.
Well, that's what you were talking about before, where you've got a guy who treats you like with respect. He's so nice to you, who takes care of you outside of the bedroom. And then inside the bedroom, he might be, like you said, breaking you down and building you back up again, right? That is the Madonna whore complex.
Yes.
But I heard Date Psych said something really profound the other day on my Instagram feed. He was talking about the reason why, and the moment he said it, I was like, yes, this is exactly correct. The reason why so many men kind of fall out of passion with their wife in a long-term relationship is because they actually respect her. They actually love her. And it's hard to fuck a woman that you actually love. You make love to her. You don't fuck her, And so she doesn't, ironically, the woman you actually care about and respect and love the most actually gets subpar sex from you.
Yes.
Whereas the whore that you pick up at a bar and you bang down a fucking alleyway is getting a much better, more passionate, animalistic, primal experience. And she's enjoying herself far more
than your wife.
Than the wife is. But it's that Madonna whore complex of like, guys you have to be able to compartmentalize your woman in a way. And it's like, you have to be able to bring out that slut, that whore for you.
Yes. And for her.
Out of her.
Yeah.
Right? And then compartmentalize that from how you respect her and treat her and love her outside of the bedroom.
Yeah.
And that is, people think you have to go to what, it has to be like one or the other.
Yes.
Whereas you need to be able to compartmentalize it. And be able to do both from the same woman.
It's a both and women have an internalized Madonna whore split as much as men project it onto them. Like, it all really comes down to that. Like, I truly did not feel like a man could ever, and I have a lot of male friends and a lot of men that want to have sex with me, but I just wouldn't believe a man if he ever actually had feelings for me. Even though they did, I wouldn't believe him.
Right.
You know? So to have the experience now where I've seen that I can be loved and also have this incredible sexual experience and own that part of myself and feel so alive and check out of my brain, which is what we all want during sex, is powerful. And that's, I think, what we're both after in terms of what we're both teaching and what the message we're both trying to spread is. The only difference is like semantics. And women mostly look at like red pill again and a lot of what you do as misogynistic, and it's not. It's like we're trying to accomplish the same goal here. And if you slow down and listen, that's all it is.
Ironically, I help more women than I help men,
and that's what you're doing now.
I mean, now I'm specifically trying to give women direct advice. But ironically, with every single guy that I help improve his sex life, for every single guy I help be better in the bedroom, I'm helping at least one woman. If not more. Because if he has more than one woman after that education, I'm helping more women than I'm helping men.
That's so funny because but
I'm a misogynist.
Yeah. I started where you were of like helping mostly women, and then it just naturally gravitated towards men because I think there's something extremely powerful about working with the opposite sex specifically on this, right? So it's like, especially given our backgrounds as sex workers, it's like, similar to therapy. Like, I think relational wounds are healed in the dyadic model of therapy, but therapy can be coaching too, can be what we're doing. So like, to work with the opposite sex on this, you really trust it and you believe it more. And, our lived experience will speak for everything there.
Right.
Like, so give me some more takeaways from your book and what you're teaching women right now.
I don't think women are taught how to seduce men anymore. And I think a big part of like women are getting, there's a lot of women who are in a long-term relationship who aren't getting the kind of sex they want, right? The passion has died down. They're past the honeymoon phase. They're in a long-term relationship. They want to keep that spark going because that's what keeps the relationship going. That's what keeps the respect going between the two of them, right? But men aren't like, women have kind of been taught that men are just like ready to go all the time, especially if they're in a long-term relationship. And the problem is that you become normalized. Like, you're no longer novel to him because he's seen you naked for however many years. He's had sex with you for however many years, right? And the male impulse is to want variety, right? So how do you turn yourself back into something novel again? How do you effectively seduce your husband again? And I think a big answer to that question is you make your skin scarce, you make your presence scarce, and you build that anticipation and arousal again. Because if you're up in each other's business 24/7, you become friends. You don't become lovers. And a big takeaway from looking back on some of my relationships was when I had a girl who was always walking around the house naked, it took away from the excitement of seeing her naked. If she's sitting there doing the laundry completely nude or just in her underpants or whatever, like, where's the like now
going pee with the door open, like
where's the fun? Like now her naked body is like just normal and boring and associated with like boring mundane housework stuff. It's not associated with like sex and fun and excitement and anticipation.
Yeah.
You know, so making your skin scarce is kind of one of these concepts. And you dress kind of like the way my current girlfriend dresses, where she covers up a lot more. So like she has this concept where it's the rule of threes, where she only shows like between legs, arms, and cleavage. She only shows one at a time. Yeah. You know, and it's like that's an old school concept. Yeah. A really old school concept. Yeah. But it works. Yeah. It's like so arousing to me. Like because you see when you don't see everything, there's something to imagine. There's some mystery. Even though I do know what she looks like naked. Yeah. There is some in the moment in the present. There's something to anticipate. Yeah. You know?
Which both men and women need, right? And I'll take that.
It's a basic human need.
Totally. And I'll take that a step further relationally. Like my parents have been together for 43 years now, and my dad was a touring rock musician. And I know that the assumption would be, oh, he probably cheated on her. He's the most loyal man ever. I mean, unless he's a psychopath, which I really don't believe. We're very close. And I asked them, I'm like, how have you guys done it? Because they're so different. That's one of the reasons it works, is they're so different, right? So there's constant mystery there. But he was away, I mean, half the time we were growing up. But, you know, so because of that distance, that created longing and yearning, but you can do that on a daily life too. So I'm not saying, and if we look at like trad wives, like trad wife doesn't mean, it can mean, of course, she doesn't have to work, right? But what is she passionate about, and what is she doing that's interesting to keep that arousal up here too? So like if she's just sitting at home all day folding the laundry in her underwear, you come home and it's the same note every day, you're going to be bored, like you said. So it's like, is she passionate about like cooking or like homemaking, reading or playing tennis or whatever it is? It's like she still has to have a robust life, and you're obviously at the epicenter of that. But you need that to keep the spark alive. Yeah. Like you need so. Like I used to have a very strong opinion about like, well, I'm never going to be a stay-at-home, and I'm like, you know what? I actually would love to, by the way. At this point, you know, that goes with like, it's like I've spent my life trying to prove myself or proving myself, and it's, but I would be quite content just reading and writing all day and like having that to my, you know, having that as my passion. And it doesn't mean going out in the world and being like, I can do it better than a man.
Right.
I've had many men assume that I'm a feminist. I'm not. I don't identify with being one. I say I'm a humanist because like I don't want to pay for the check. And because I felt so unworthy and lived this double life as a sex worker and didn't feel like I could be loved, you know, for being a sexual person, you know, I would very much overcompensate in relationships, which would kill polarity. And I was so unaware of this. So I'd be like, oh, I'll buy it. I got this. And I would overperform. Right. And it's so interesting that now the less I do, and the more I just receive, that I fall into my feminine. And that's truly what a man wants, to feel useful. And provision isn't just monetary, right? Provision is presence. It's showing up. It's like, it's opening your car door.
He wants to feel competent.
Exactly.
He wants to feel useful.
Exactly. Which is, it's counterintuitive to, you know, the sexual revolution in all these ways, and what women think that liberation is. We're not like men. No. We're not like men. It's like, this is a hot take, but I can't stand Emily Ratajkowski, okay? Because she cosplays as a feminist, but like the reason she has her career is because she's got like these beautiful double D tits, this 23-inch waist, and, you know, sold her naked photos when she was 18, 19, like did these photo shoots. That's why she's famous, because she's beautiful. And then she comes back years later and writes this book on being a feminist. And now she bought the rights to her photos back. She wouldn't have even had a book deal if it weren't for how she looked in the first place, right?
You know what? You just described basically every female adult performer.
Yeah. It's like there's a difference between exhibitionism and vanity or narcissism and sexual liberation, right? Well, let's not conflate the two of those things. I used to think I was so liberated because I had sex with a bunch of men. I felt like nothing. In fact, I felt like shit if I would sit still about it. Now, I think, interestingly, it's gone full circle where like I really just want to be claimed by one. And it seems like that's where you've landed on relationships too and monogamy. What's your
Yeah, I mean,
stance?
I don't think monogamy is like a natural impulse. I think our biology literally proves that. Like the shape of the penis literally proves that.
Yeah.
You know, like the glands is like a plunger to pull sperm out of your vagina so you can outcompete the guy who was there before. Like that wouldn't exist.
Sperm wars, baby. I know.
Like that wouldn't exist in our biology. And I believe that the initial part of the male ejaculate is actually a bit of a spermicide to kill off rival sperm that's already in the vagina. Like there's so much in our biology that just like points to us not being from a monogamous evolutionary background, right? So, but you can't, like monogamous societies are more successful, hands down. It's like, that is like, it's monogamy is not an impulse. It is a decision. It is actually a sacrifice.
For a man.
For a man specifically, for man.
Yeah.
You know, so and it's a sacrifice. It's kind of a situation of like, well, what kind of society do you want to live in? Like, and what we're seeing right now is a trend towards like polygamy. Actually, no, it's not. It's polygyny.
It's polyamory, polygamy.
Well, no, I'm going to get this term. When it's one man and multiple women, it's polygyny.
Oh, asymmetrical. Oh, I just call it asymmetrical non-monogamy. That's what I see a lot.
But what I'm trying to,
Totally.
But the point I'm trying to get at, right?
Yeah.
Is when you have, and this is across history, you see this, when you have income disparity between like the top tier men and the bottom tier men, when there's basically no middle class, you get a situation where women are happy to share a man. More women are sharing the top tier men.
Do you think they're
and that
happy?
is what we have right now.
Do you think they're happy about it? Or they're settling?
It's just a compromise. It's
a new paradigm.
Well, that's the paradigm. Like they would rather share a successful man than have exclusivity from a man without resource.
Right.
And this isn't like, we didn't have this maybe 100 years ago. Our society wasn't like that. It was a lot more monogamous because the income disparity wasn't there.
Yeah.
We had a big middle class across all Western countries. But now that is being eroded. What that produces in the sexual marketplace is this trend towards women sharing men. It's just this is repeated throughout history. This has happened before.
Yeah.
And it's so the sexual, like when people talk about the red pill, people talk about like the dating marketplace, talk about like the disparity between men's dating experience and women's dating experience. A lot of it actually comes down to money.
I never thought about that.
It comes down to the economics of
the
world we're living in right now.
Wow, I never thought about that at all. Where we are at economically is a reflection of that. That's crazy.
Very much so, yeah. It's you see this time and time and time again. Yeah. Really good book I've started reading on this topic is Why Beautiful People Have More Daughters.
Okay.
He goes. This is one of the points he makes in this book. Wow. It's a super interesting book.
Wow.
I'm only about halfway through it, so I don't know the answer to why they have more daughters yet.
Yeah.
I'm getting to that
that'll be episode 2. Yeah. So where did you land on it yourself?
I want to have kids. I want to have a family that's raised the way I was raised, which was monogamous.
Have you been?
Well, it's a new relationship, so
yeah. But no, have you been in past relationships?
No.
No.
Yeah. But it wasn't. But I didn't want to be.
Yeah.
Either.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's something I find really interesting. I do find that more adult stars or former adult stars, because they've had to have conversations that no one in the real world have had to have, right? So a lot of them actually yearn for monogamy or end up in monogamous relationships. Like Dan Blazarian talks about how he's landed on monogamy too. And I don't know how this reflects back at women, because I feel the same way, but then there's the perception, we can argue this from an Evo Psych standpoint too, that like you can't trust a woman that's been with a lot of partners. But I think if you, Rollo did say actually, he's like, you want the honest whore that is only a whore with you. So it's like, what about the honest whore that's been a literal whore? And he's saying, I do only want to be with you. Is that believed?
I think you're more like a woman who's done sex work is more believable in that situation than a woman who has tried to conceal her promiscuity.
Yeah.
because you're at least you're quite clearly okay with the fact that that was what you did.
Yeah.
Like you put it out there. You know what I mean? Versus the just a regular party woman who goes out to clubs on the weekend and stuff, right? Who has probably got a far bigger body count than you would expect.
Yeah. And lies about it.
Like, because she's her entire strategy is to deceive. Mm-hmm. You know, like, and it's kind of funny. Like a lot of there's like civilian women who have far bigger body counts than porn stars.
Well, and I mean Candace, who's a great friend of mine, perfect example.
Well, because like if you just look at the math of like how many male actors there are in the porn scene, like she's probably only having sex with about 30 blokes.
Yeah,
like that's the talent pool in the United States.
Yeah,
but like. There's plenty of girls in Miami I've been out to clubs with who definitely have higher body counts than that.
Well, and also the origin of that too. It's like, what was the catalyst? Like usually it's insecurity, right? For women, it's like they keep running through men to be chosen by one, or like they're trying to fill a void of some kind, which is the complete opposite intent of men, which is rooted in evolutionary biology, right? So that's why equanimity doesn't work in the sexual marketplace, because the incentive is entirely different.
Completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why most societies throughout history have had like some degree of restriction on women's sexual freedom.
Yeah.
Is to sort of try and balance the playing field.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because a woman can get sex like at the drop of a hat, you know, but a man has to put a lot of work in to be able to have options.
Yeah.
And this is sort of the back to the question you asked me about like monogamy and stuff. It's like most men are not monogamous out of choice.
Yeah.
Most men are monogamous out of necessity because they don't have any choice. They don't have any options, you know? And it's all well and good for the vast majority of those, like, and those same men will try to moralize a guy who has a lot of sexual options, like maybe a Dan Bilzerian, for example, right? They'll turn and point and snicker and you know, try to bully him.
Jordan Peterson will do that.
Right. But you don't have his options. And if you did, I think your opinion would be very different.
Yeah.
You cannot, like, you're so different from him. There's no way you can relate to his experience.
Yeah. Like,
my buddy Michael Sartain has a really, really cool analogy. Is like, there's actually three sexes. There's women, there's men who get laid, and then there's men who don't get laid. And it's kind of, he's very accurate in that. Like, those are three very different experiences of people.
Yeah.
You know, men without sexual options and men with sexual options are, at least from a woman's perspective, are basically two different people.
Yeah.
Or two different species.
Yeah.
Like,
and to your point too, the big radical realization for me has been that like Jordan Peterson is actually 10x more of a misogynist than Dan Bilzerian ever was. What he says about women being fundamentally like demoralized and wrong and like, you know, just like traumatized if they've had more than 5 sexual partners, when I'm pretty sure his wife was his only partner ever, right? So. And for me, it's like, if you can understand the sexual landscape and have the lexicon around it to know, again, the difference between a fantasy, a desire, a kink, a fetish, and you have the experience to then know exactly what you want, that's way more trustworthy to me than a guy who's being dogmatic about and moralizing sex, right?
Yeah, it's the holier than thou attitude.
Yeah.
Which I personally can't stand.
Yeah.
You know, like you if you were in Dan's situation, like if you had built your life to have that much social proof, right? I don't think you would be on the high horse you're on right now. You know what I'm saying? There's incredibly few men on this planet who have that degree of like sexual access and are actually a 100% faithful. Like, there's guys who portray themselves to be faithful. There's a lot, like presidents, for example, are a perfect example, right? Most powerful person on earth. You can't tell me that is not intoxicating to a woman who's around him. Yeah. And she's not gonna subtly throw herself at him, right? Yeah. Like Bill Clinton's scandal with Monica Lewinsky, for example, right? There is lots of men, particularly in this country, who portray themselves to be exclusive monogamous Christians.
Conservative
Christians, but you probably know better than anyone else what they're doing behind closed doors.
Oh, do I ever? Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's, and then the guy who is not at his level of sexual access, the guy who is like an average Joe, looks at that and then uses that as like a moral battering ram to judge a guy like a Dan Bilzerian or a Justin Wall or a me or a Tate or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and be like, you're bad because you have access to women.
Yeah.
You know,
it's funny because women do this too. I experience a significant amount of female judgment. When I came out with my experience, I lost a lot of female friends. I didn't lose male friends, and
right,
which is interesting because here's the paradox. I never dated for money. I'm clearly not married for money. So me doing sex work was a way for me to maintain my agency, my autonomy, my freedom, because I can't fake my feelings. I could fake an orgasm.
Right.
I can't fake my feelings. And yet so many of these women that are now out of my life that were my friends married for money. They didn't love these guys. The things they would say about them, or the guys they were dating behind their backs would say, men are the worst. I hate men. This guy's a fucking loser. Like, I don't hear the men I'm friends with speaking about women like that. So we want to talk about the hierarchy. We want to talk about moralizing sex work. I would never marry Trump, for example, right? Because, and let alone procreate with him. Or like, let's look at like Georgina Chapman, Harvey Weinstein's ex-wife. One of the most beautiful women I've ever seen, okay? She's now with Adrian Brody. And Harvey Weinstein, powerful, status, loaded. That's why she was with him. But that's you sacrificing your morality there, right? So it's like no one talks about this. No one talks about that there's this honesty in the red pill community. There's honesty in sex work that is not in the real world. They kind of have it flipped. Like, why aren't we judging Melania? We're celebrating her because she's so indifferent. We're celebrating the chick that doesn't give a shit. That's like clearly, like that's not a traditional conservative, respectful relationship by any freaking means. It's so perplexing to me.
On this point, this is something I want to throw at you. I have my opinion. I want to hear what your opinion is. Do you think women are inherently attracted to morality, honor, virtue in men?
I'm a special case in a lot of ways. Honesty and trust is imperative for me. So I would say that that's aligned with honor. Because I hold space for so much for men. Like, I've seen it and done it all. So if then I feel like you are out of integrity and you're lying to me, I'm like, what the hell is the point of giving you all the space? Most women, I'd say, are...
I don't necessarily mean like lying to you, but I mean, let's... and one example you just used then was like a Harvey Weinstein example, right? Another example like I will use is like, look at how much pussy a drug dealer gets. Like...
That's fair. Okay.
Like or a mob boss.
Okay, you're solely talking about attraction.
Yeah. I'm talking purely.
So, okay, yeah.
Purely
if we're talking about that, yes, yeah. No.
The answer's no.
because I told you, I had a sociopath like bad boy thing for years. Right.
So I like, and this is something I don't think I've heard anyone else talk about. Like women are not innately biologically attracted to morality.
Wow.
They're not.
Yikes.
Because you can point to so many examples of the that contradict it, right? If that were the case, like let's flip that on its head. We know that women are innately attracted to taller men because they preference taller men over shorter men.
Protection.
Right. Strength, all those things. Women clearly show a preference for pieces of shit. over guys who are the nice moral man, clearly. Now, here's my point. The only way, because like morality, because people use these terms so much, like like high value man, and they conflate high value man with like a moral virtuous man, right? But I'm trying to say is that is not even on the table. Like when it comes to women's attraction, it's not that women aren't necessarily attracted to it or not attracted to it. They don't even consider it. Like it's a non sequitur, because for you to be, where was I going with this? Not attracted to morality. Yeah. You are not like, that's what I was trying to say. Sorry. Sorry about that brain fart moment. For you to find a man who is moral and, let's say, virtuous and honorable, like considered that way by other men, right? For you to find him attractive, other men have to put him on a pedestal first. We have to have a society, if we want men who are good, just, honest men to be seen as desirable by women, other men have to put him on a pedestal.
Yeah.
Because they have to give him status.
Okay.
Because women respond to status. This is why drug dealers are attractive, is because they have respect and status from other men. Men put them on a pedestal, right? The same with everything. Like, this status is the ultimate attraction trigger. My buddy Michael Sartain, Dan Bilzerian have proved this without a doubt.
Yeah,
right? It is the ultimate attraction. It's so much of an attraction trigger that it overrides every other attraction trigger. Like, a guy can be short, fat, and broke, but if he has a lot of women around him, he's attractive, right? So status is the ultimate attraction trigger. So if you want a society which actually value, like where women are actually attracted to these guys who are honorable and moral and just, the only way to get that is for other men to put those guys on a pedestal and give them attention and give them status.
Okay, but with Harvey Weinstein, like, he looks like a warthog. Okay, so like I there's no way. I don't think there was any genuine desirous attraction. I think he
has status.
Yeah, but do you think that made her want to have sex with him, or that?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's ask her.
No, it's a fair question. It's a fair question.
Yeah, because I don't think so. Because I could bring that back to it's the payout. Is the payout greater than the compromise, right? So I had clients like that. Like, one in particular, whale client, insufferable, the most immoral, awful mind fuckery of it. He looked like Harvey Weinstein, actually, and but paid a lot. You know, he had women on retainers, right. like 20, 30 grand a month retainers to see him a few times. And
but you don't think these women weren't actually genuinely attracted
no,
to him? No. Do you think he can tell though?
No. And
because I can tell.
Yeah, well, you're an attractive guy, though. That's the difference.
I'm sorry to cut you off with your thought process there, but for me, I find that fascinating that a guy who's a piece of shit, but has a ton of money and he's paying like escorts to be on a retainer for him or whatever, right? Has he never actually had a woman genuinely desire him? Because how can he, because I can tell really easily, like, if a woman is genuinely into a guy or if she's just faking it. Yeah. And I can tell if she's doing it for me too. Surely these guys could tell. Surely. You'd
think, okay, but they're paying to not get rejected. And I actually, I've discussed this with a sex worker girlfriend of mine who's also a sexologist. And because we're fascinated by it. She had this client that literally, she didn't even sleep with him. She hasn't even slept with him because she had a surgery. He wired her $400,000 because he asked her, what would it cost to get you off the sites, to get you out of this? She has a boyfriend, by the way. He's aware of everything, blah, blah. The client doesn't know she has a boyfriend. But he wired her $400,000. He's one of the most successful CEOs. Like, I obviously can't say who it is. Very, very successful. Did that without even sleeping with her. And I see her on FaceTime with him, and she's like, hi, baby. And he wants to believe it, so he believes it. Right. It's the suspension of disbelief thing. It's like men that are in power all the time, similar to women that, like, we need to check out. So they don't want to, they pay to not believe it, right? Like, that's the exchange. But it's fascinating to me how many of these men that are so successful in the real world that are just absolutely dumb.
Well, it's we're going to wrap up because we're running out of time. But the thing I'll add to that is, like, to be a successful man in business, you have to understand human nature. You have to be able to read people. Yet they can't. Yet those same men you're talking about, who will hire sugar babies or whatever to be around them all the time, are then able to suspend disbelief enough to believe that that woman actually likes them. To me, that's kind of like they're buying their own bullshit. Yeah. To me, that is kind of mind blowing.
Yeah, it deserves a deeper dive for sure. I'm actually doing a study on that I'm presenting on it in the next 6 months, so I'm doing a deeper dive on that.
I mean, it's also the same phenomenon you see on OnlyFans.
Yeah.
Where the vast majority of paying, like whales paying customers on OnlyFans accounts are guys in relationships who are having this fake online relationship, parasocial relationship, to try and get this intimacy that they're not getting in their real relationship. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and to that I say, if you are willing to believe that, then like let them pay. You know what I mean? Like then the woman's not deceiving you. It should be pretty apparent.
Right.
So anyway, that was an awesome conversation. I feel like we could have like kept going.
We'll be doing another one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But where can we find you?
Yeah. Any women watching can go to stirlingforher.com. Stirling is spelled STIRLING, and you can get my completely free guide for women on a bunch of the stuff we just talked about. Go into great detail there. For the guys, go to stirlingcooper.com or go onto my YouTube channel and you just type in Stirling Cooper and I'm the first thing that comes up, and I've got tons of videos that are completely free. Go into all kinds of fixing all kinds of problems you might have in the bedroom, all kinds of psychological and dating aspects as well, and just a bunch of free advice for you. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. That was great.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening today. You can follow us on the Next Man Up _pod on Instagram or on YouTube at Next Man Up with Coral. Please feel free to slide into my DMs with any thoughts, feelings, or praise, and let me know who you think should be the next man up.